Do you believe pornography is just harmless entertainment? What if I told you it can be as addictive as hard drugs? It might sound like an exaggeration, but the alarming rise in people facing problems related to excessive consumption of adult content in recent years tells a different story. Pornography is silently affecting the mental and emotional health of many, maybe even yours, without you realizing it. In this video, we will reveal the hidden dangers of pornography and how it might be influencing your life in ways you never imagined. Have you noticed how the digital world is deeply shaping our habits? In the past 3 years, there has been a significant increase in people seeking help for issues related to pornography addiction. It's not just a cold statistic. It's a reflection of how this phenomenon is impacting the mental health of many, often in silence. Imagine a colleague who, after a stressful day, turns to his phone to relieve tension. At first, it's just a quick escape, but over time it becomes an indispensable routine. He starts to notice that he is more irritable, less focused, and his personal relationships begin to suffer. It's similar to someone who uses sugar as comfort and, without realizing it, develops health problems. Mental health experts are sounding the alarm about this rise. It's not about moral judgments, but about understanding that excessive consumption of pornography can lead to symptoms of depression, anxiety, and even affect the ability to feel pleasure in other areas of life. Recent studies show that the brain can be deeply affected by these constant stimuli. To give a practical example, think of someone who decided to join support groups or therapy to deal with this addiction. By sharing experiences, they discovered they weren't alone and that many face similar challenges. With professional guidance, they started to replace this habit with activities like reading inspirational books or playing sports, finding new ways to achieve satisfaction and balance. Isn't it intriguing how something so accessible can have such a significant impact? This growing demand for help highlights the need to open up spaces to talk about this issue without taboos. After all, acknowledging the problem is the first step toward finding effective solutions and regaining control over our lives. And this leads us to ask, what makes this addiction so powerful that it can be compared to hard drugs? It's striking how something as accessible as pornography can have such deep effects on the human brain, to the point of being compared to hard drugs like cocaine. Mental health and neuroscience experts have observed that pornography addiction can be even harder to treat than chemical substance dependency. But why does this happen? Imagine a person who starts consuming pornography out of curiosity or boredom. At first, it might seem harmless, but gradually, they realize they need increasingly intense content to feel the same level of satisfaction. This happens because the brain adapts to the stimuli, demanding higher doses to release the same amount of dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure. This growing need is similar to what happens with drugs like cocaine. Both intensely and artificially activate the brain's reward system, creating a cycle of dependence. The person becomes increasingly focused on obtaining this immediate pleasure, often to the detriment of other activities that were once gratifying, like hobbies, relationships, and work. Furthermore, the easy and anonymous access to pornography in the digital age exacerbates the problem. Unlike illicit substances, which can be hard to obtain and bring legal risks, pornography is just a click away, available 24 hours a day. This makes the addiction more insidious as it removes barriers that could limit excessive consumption. To illustrate, think of someone who decides to seek professional help after realizing their work performance and personal relationships are suffering. Treatment might involve cognitive behavioral therapy, support groups, and strategies to develop new healthy habits. Just like in the treatment of chemical dependencies, it's a process that requires dedication and continuous support. Have you ever reflected on how certain habits become deeply ingrained in our lives? The human brain plays a central role in the development of addiction, especially when it comes to pornography. Pornography activates the brain's dopamine system, the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and reward, in a way very similar to drugs like cocaine and heroin. Imagine that each time someone consumes pornography, they're triggering an internal mechanism that releases a flood of dopamine. In the beginning, this stimulus provides an intense feeling of satisfaction. However, over time, the brain begins to adapt to these high levels of dopamine, reducing the sensitivity of the receptors. This means the person needs greater or more frequent stimuli to achieve the same level of pleasure as before. This phenomenon creates a vicious cycle. The more you consume, the more you need to consume. It's like someone who starts by drinking 1 cup of coffee to feel alert, but ends up needing several throughout the day to maintain the same level of energy. This incessant search for immediate pleasure can lead to a state of compulsion, where the individual feels an almost uncontrollable need to continue consuming, even recognizing the negative effects on their life. To illustrate, think of someone who, upon realizing this escalation, decides to seek alternative activities that also release dopamine in a healthy way, like exercising, learning a new musical instrument, or engaging in volunteer work. These activities not only provide satisfaction, but also help restore the brain's chemical balance, reducing the dependency on harmful stimuli. Understanding how the brain is influenced by these habits is crucial to developing effective strategies for overcoming them. With the right knowledge and support, it's possible to reverse this process, re-establish healthy neural connections, and regain control over your desires and actions. This leads us to consider how the environment and specific contexts can trigger these behaviors, even when there's no conscious desire to consume them. Have you noticed how certain environments or situations can subtly but powerfully influence our behaviors? Pornography addiction, like substance abuse, is highly contextual. This means that specific environmental triggers can provoke the desire to consume this content, even when there is no conscious intention or immediate need. Imagine a person trying to reduce their pornography consumption. They might be doing well, but when they receive a notification on their phone or see a suggestive image while browsing the internet, they feel a strong urge to return to the habit. These environmental triggers act as unconscious reminders that activate brain circuits associated with addiction, making it difficult to resist temptation. These stimuli can be as simple as a specific time of day, a familiar place, or even emotions like stress and boredom. For example, someone might associate the end of the day, when they're alone at home, with consuming pornography. Recognizing these patterns is essential to breaking the cycle. Some people succeed by altering routines, such as exercising during that time or dedicating themselves to a hobby that keeps the mind and body occupied. Additionally, the ubiquity of digital devices makes access to this content almost instant. Setting up parental controls, using blocking apps, or even turning off notifications can be an effective strategy to reduce exposure to these triggers. For instance, leaving the phone out of the bedroom at night can help avoid temptation before going to sleep. Understanding that addiction is highly influenced by context gives us the opportunity to shape our environment in ways that encourage healthy habits. It's like rearranging the furniture in your home to facilitate movement. By adjusting your environment, you make behavior change easier. This allows us to regain control and reduce the influence of unwanted external stimuli. Recognizing the importance of context also prepares us to face another crucial aspect: how the brain adapts and forms habits, making addiction even more challenging to overcome. Have you heard of neuroplasticity? It's the brain's incredible ability to reshape and adapt based on the experiences and habits we cultivate. In the case of pornography addiction, repeated consumption of this content can literally rewire neural connections, turning an occasional behavior into a deeply ingrained dependency. Imagine the brain as a garden, where each thought or action is a path traced between the plants. The more you walk a path, the more defined and easier to follow it becomes. In the context of pornography, each access reinforces these neural trails, making the act more and more automatic and less conscious. It's as if weeds took over, suffocating the flowers that represent healthy habits. This process is the result of neuroplasticity. The brain strengthens frequently used connections, while the less used ones weaken. That's why habits become so deeply rooted. For example, when you learn to play a musical instrument, at first it's challenging, but with constant practice, the movements become natural. Similarly, negative habits can be reinforced through repetition. To reverse this pattern, it's essential to introduce new habits that promote well-being. Activities like meditation, Physical exercise or learning a new skill can help create new neural connections. Think of someone who decides to trade the time spent on pornography for dance classes. In addition to learning something new, this person stimulates the brain positively and expands their social circle. Understanding neuroplasticity gives us the power to shape our own brains. While negative habits can become deeply rooted, we have the ability to create and strengthen new connections that favor a healthier, more fulfilling life. It's a process that requires patience and persistence, but the results can be transformative. This journey of change prepares us to understand how pornography addiction can profoundly affect daily life and why it's so important to seek effective solutions. Have you ever reflected on how an addiction can profoundly affect every aspect of daily life? Pornography. Addiction can severely impact a person's daily functioning. As the brain's reward system becomes desensitized, activities that were once enjoyable lose their appeal, and the ability to stop the harmful behavior diminishes, even when the damage being caused is recognized. Imagine someone starting to notice their relationships are deteriorating. Moments with family and friends become rare, work performance begins to decline, and simple tasks start to feel like insurmountable challenges. The person might feel a generalized lack of motivation, as if a gray fog has covered all the vibrant colors in their life. This desensitization happens because the brain, accustomed to intense pornography stimuli, requires increasingly higher levels of excitement to release dopamine, the pleasure neurotransmitter. This can lead to a vicious cycle where the person seeks more extreme content, worsening the problem. It's similar to someone developing a tolerance to a substance and needing larger doses to feel the same effect. To illustrate, think of someone who decides to seek help after realizing they can no longer emotionally connect with their partner. Through therapy and practices like mindfulness, this person begins to reconnect with themselves and others. Activities like meditation, exercise, and creative hobbies can help reawaken the brain's reward system in a healthy way, restoring the ability to feel pleasure in simple experiences. Recognizing the profound impact pornography addiction can have on daily life is a crucial step in recovery. While the path may be challenging, there are resources and strategies that can help restore well-being and quality of life, allowing the person to regain control and rediscover satisfaction in the small things of everyday life. Now that you understand the dangers of pornography and how it can profoundly affect your life, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Change begins with small actions. What habits can you start adjusting today? What triggers can you eliminate from your routine to regain control? Don't be afraid to seek professional help or share your journey with someone you trust. Remember, recognizing the problem is the first step to transformation. And before you leave, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There is much more to learn about overcoming challenges and living fully, and I'll be here to help you every step of the way. Shall we embark on this journey together?